Tracking two more colder atmospheric rivers with the major Sierra impacts ahead, lowering snow levels, plus more rain for the valley. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods tracking what has been a very active start to February. Now we've got two more atmospheric rivers heading our way. It looks like the peak will be about an AR4. That's going to put about 2 to 4 more inches of precipitation forecasted for the capital region and about 4 to 6 in through the central and northern part of the Sacramento Valley. Lower than what we saw over the weekend storm. That was a Pineapple Express coming right through from the Hawaiian Islands, transporting that big band of moisture and a much higher snow level, giving us a lot more of a juicy weather system over the weekend. But now we quickly turn our attention into two colder storms. So our weather impact alert headlines include the timing, when, Tuesday and Thursday. We're starting to get more precision on when we'll see the biggest impacts, but it will still be heavy rain, snow, and windy weather ahead with this particular line of storms. Be flood ready and expect major mountain impacts. Over the weekend, that snow line was so high, it was mainly just rain over the passes. It wasn't too terrible getting up over the high country. This will be a much different series of storms this week, so stay ahead of it all. Download the ABC 10 Plus streaming app wherever you stream for free. It's live, local, and always on. We've got not only our extended forecast, but also our weather specials, which includes Water Wasted. It's our Emmy Award-winning series. All right, taking a look at that storm timeline. Tuesday through Friday, you can see the weather impact alert days. The cooler storm moves in on Tuesday, so no longer are we seeing kind of that high snow line. Instead, it's going to be much lower. It'll be about 7,000 feet through much of the day and then lower to below the pass level into some of the lower elevations Tuesday evening. But at that point, we're kind of seeing the back edge. So we get a few light showers on Wednesday morning. It's a brief pause between systems because we're right back at it for Thursday. This is going to be a colder storm with major mountain impacts. For the valley, we actually start to dry out on Friday, but then lingering mountain showers are going to continue into our Friday with some more impacts that'll be lingering into our Friday. So if you're trying to head up there for the skiing and snowboarding, just hold on. I think Saturday, Sunday is going to be our best bet. I wouldn't say Friday is going to be so great in the high country. Satellite and radar showing the first bands of rain starting to press right around I-80. It will continue to move its way southward throughout the course of the overnight hours. And the biggest rain actually hits right about midnight for the valley. And then that will move through the Sierra as well. We'll still see some lingering heavy rain on Tuesday as well. Monday, here's a look at our 80-50 corridor. Mainly, we've been seeing it along I-80 points northward, but again, this will all press its way southward throughout the overnight hours. Right now, our temperatures are still hovering above freezing for Truckee and South Lake Tahoe, so that snow line remains closer to the pass level. It will come down heading into our Tuesday. Temperatures in the valley in the 50s, and we're still looking at the potential for more flooding, mostly nuisance flooding throughout the valley. But mud and rock slides are possible around the Park Fire. That was that fire that we had just off to the east of Chico. So some debris flows possible around there. It's just it's not going to meet that threshold, but we could see some minor slides just because of the amount of rain that we've seen recently, especially north of I-80. Speaking of slides and some nuisance types of flooding and also dangerous conditions. Take a look at these pictures near Placerville. This was a sinkhole expected to get worse because of more rain coming into the foothills. That's along Highway 50 there in Placerville. All right, moving on to our Sierra conditions. Our winter storm warning in effect through Wednesday morning with 1 to 3 feet of new snow possible, gusts up to 70 miles per hour with major travel impacts in the high country. We move over to the coastal range, and with that lowering snow line, a winter weather advisory in place through Tuesday evening. Be aware, kind of hugging the valley will be snow events, as well as our avalanche watch through Tuesday morning. This is for the backcountry, not for ski areas. So anybody that's planning any hiking or doing some snowshoeing, things like that into the backcountry, it's going to be real dangerous even for skiers there as well. Our wind advisory goes into place and will continue through Tuesday afternoon. Gusts 30 to 40 plus miles per hour. Now, given the amount of rain that we've seen, Over the course of the weekend into our Sunday, we could see some vulnerability to weakened trees. These aren't the types of winds that are going to bring down strong trees, but anything that was weakened or maybe is diseased, that will have a potential to come down, as well as branches and some power outages with 40-plus-mile-per-hour winds. This is the timing of the winds. You can see that for the morning commute, it's going to be breezy. Plus, we're going to have the rain. But once we head into the afternoon, as that cold front starts to press our way, out ahead of it, we get the gusty winds, upwards of 40 to 45 miles per hour. And we'll have near 70-mile-per-hour gusts in parts of the Sierra. Now, we can start to see that press off to the east by 8 p.m., but that evening commute is going to be dicey throughout the valley for our Tuesday. Winds finally starting to calm down by Tuesday evening. The big line of early precipitation comes through just before midnight through the valley. We'll see areas of snow for the Sierra, but it's really not widespread at that point. It doesn't start to become widespread until we get to our Tuesday forecast. Spotty showers for the morning commute, but again, wind gusts upwards of about 30 miles per hour. Heading into the afternoon, we start to see more widespread snow as that cold front starts to press our way. Keep in mind, we're still looking at that snow line at about 7,000 feet. The cold air is still off the coast here. Once that low that's sitting off the coast starts to dive its way southward, we'll get the cold front and a chance of thunderstorms, as well as the heavier rain moving through. And this is right at the time we start to see some of the peak commute conditions all the way into the Bay Area along I-80. Heading into the valley, we'll start to see the leading edge of that heavy precipitation. And again, that snow line that will be fluctuating right around pass level. Once that colder air moves in, that snow line is going to fall rapidly. We get the back edge of this moving through about 9 o'clock on Tuesday evening. So we're really not seeing this linger too much into our Tuesday overnight hours. This isn't a long duration type of event. And Wednesday's a dry day for almost all of us. A few morning snow flurries for the Sierra, but that's about it. Tuesday, our best chance for that thunderstorm action is going to be the 80-50 corridor, and then all the way into the southern mother lode, into Yosemite and parts of the central and southern Sierra. Not so much for the valley, but for the flash flood potential, where we've seen it largely north of I-80 into our Monday. That starts to slide its way southward here, all along the south central coast into almost San Luis Obispo. So that weather system is certainly going to be doing a number all the way into parts of central and southern California. River stages, we like to look at this anytime we have a flood watch out. It's not so much the major waterways like reservoirs and the river system that we're concerned about. It's more the creeks, the streams, the normal ponding that you would see, the storm drains that seem to always tend to overflow. That's what we'll be looking at into our Tuesday. But we are at major flood stage for the Pitt River. That's going to be right in the northeast corner of California. We have been particularly hard hit right through that line over the weekend with that really moist system that came on through. The northern part of the Sacramento River and even into the central part, we are seeing some minor flood stage. We'll keep an eye on that. But most of those river systems are actually set to a naturally occurring floodplain, and so they just allow some of those areas to naturally flood to kind of ease the tension before it gets to more metropolitan areas. So our future moisture, as we look out to the Pacific, we can see that first line coming through here on Tuesday, a bit of a break, but then that second line comes through. Now this is when it starts to interact with that cold air. That's why Thursday's storm system is going to be so chilly. We'll take a look at those temperatures that'll be falling in just a moment. Let's break it apart here. Our impacts this week. Storm system number one, it's a cooler system, more typical snow line, about 6,000 feet that falls to 4,000 feet. Gusty winds on Tuesday. Now we get that pause on Wednesday. Right back at it with the second storm system of the week. This is the third, though, in our series, by the way, since beginning last Friday. So Thursday and Friday, we get that colder system. Snow levels down to about 3,000 feet. Extended periods of chain controls likely. And I would bet that we will have some road closures and some spinouts, as well as just really big travel delays. Our snow level forecast, you can see about 7,000 feet on Tuesday, falls to about 4,000 feet on Wednesday, but I already showed you there's not a lot of precipitation left at that point. We gear it up again Thursday into Friday, 5,000 feet down to 3,000 feet, and we will see those chain controls very likely low in elevation. That just makes for terribly slow going over the passes. Our winter storm severity index, the biggest impacts are actually south of Highway 50 in through Yosemite, so along 395 and 88, 89. Mammoth being pretty much in the moderate to almost severe impacts that we're going to be seeing for our at least 1 to 3 day outlook. That's going to include that Tuesday storm. Monday through Friday forecast. If you're thinking, okay, I've been waiting. January was so dry and icy in the high country. Want to get up there and hit this fresh powder. This is how much you're going to encounter. About 1 to, in some places, 4 to almost 5 feet of new snow coming in. Soda Springs, we could see up to about 60 inches of snow by the time we get into that Friday forecast. So this is going to be the 5-day accumulated snowfall for many of those ski resorts. Oh, February is looking very good. Unfortunately, on the flip side of that, we got to get through the travel period. So we've got the winter storm watch in effect for Friday, Thursday and Friday in the high country. Here's a look at the temperatures and how much of that cold air starts to move in. See that big blast of cold air coming in. It penetrates all the way into Southern California. So this is going to be a cold air mass that comes on in. I showed you that winter severity index that was moving through our 1 to 3 day outlook. So the line of storms that moves through. First of all, we get that first system of the week. This is going to be Tuesday morning. Snow in the Sierra, but kind of that mixed bag of precipitation at the lower elevations until that cold front comes through during the afternoon. At that point, we have an increase in thunderstorms as well. Helps to destabilize the atmosphere with that cold versus warm air mass blasting on through. So Wednesday, largely a drier day through much of the valley, even through the Sierra before Thursday hits, and we'll get that next quicker moving storm. It's a colder one, but it's going to be quick moving. So we're going to get a quick dumping of snow in the Sierra, rain in the valley. The snow will linger in the Sierra on Friday before it starts to decrease in intensity throughout the afternoon and winding down during Friday evening, which leads us to a dry weekend. And oh my goodness, so much powder in the Sierra. Model rainfall totals talked about this, about 2 to 4 inches of rain coming in for the week, and for our model snowfall totals, anywhere from 1 to 40 plus inches of snow. Some of those ski resorts getting upwards of about 5 feet of snow coming in. We actually need the rainfall. Our deficits have been growing. Our water year was off to a phenomenal start, November and early December, and then everything shut down in January, which unfortunately is our wettest month statistically throughout much of the year. So our precipitation this month, we are doing pretty well. We're going to add much more to that in the coming days. Statewide precipitation, as you can see, the rundown here, finally starting to see some numbers pop up in Southern California, but we're still about 5 to 8 inches behind where we should be this time of year. And those deficits, as I mentioned, have been growing in Northern California. Redding and Eureka, which were favored with this last round of rain, came up big. So Redding 8 inches ahead of where we should be this time of year. And we're once again going to get hit with some more rain. Redding, by the way, had one of the wettest days on record for the weekend. So we saw some record rainfall in Redding. Had that snow survey last week, and it really was apparent how much a dry January, what a difference that will make. We started off the month at 108% of average, went down to 65% of average for the statewide average there at Phillips Station. Also saw that decrease in numbers. But with just one storm that came in, we went right back up to above 100% of average for the Northern Sierra. Starting to see a little bit of those numbers peaking up there for the southern and central Sierra. We'll get more that we're going to add to it. So I think this next time around, we're going to have some pretty good numbers popping up for that snow survey. As of today, statewide average up to 69%, and that's pretty good considering that our reservoirs are still at 80% capacity. Folsom only about 40% capacity, but again, much smaller reservoir. Really have to manage that very carefully. A bunch of water coming down the hill is going to put a lot of pressure on that reservoir. New Melones, Don Pedro at about 70 to 80% of capacity. Millerton coming up at about 50%. San Luis, which is an off-stream pump water storage, has a little more flexibility, 76% of capacity. We're in a likely cooler weather pattern come our way for the middle of February. Once that low kind of opens up the colder air and pushes that storm track to the south of us, that's going to allow access and kind of an open door for that cooler air to move on through. But it's going to be a likely wetter in the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to be in an equal chance situation through north central California. Southern California, it looks like we're back to that drier than average pattern. A look at our 5-day regional forecast. The heaviest rain and snow develops on Tuesday for the mountains. Morning snowfall on Wednesday, right back at that snow Thursday and Friday into early Saturday. Saturday is kind of one of those days, a couple of flurries. For the foothills, we see the rain on Tuesday, dry Wednesday, more rain Thursday into early Friday, dry as we kick off the weekend. And for the coast, same situation here. Tuesday and Thursday are going to be our rainy days. And then as we head towards the end of the work week into the weekend, we're right back to the dry weather. So we've got the weather impact alert days kind of fine-tuned at this point. It's going to be Tuesday and Thursday for the valley. Wednesday's largely a dry day, mostly dry on Friday. Dry for the weekend if you've been holding off on